So, our topic for discussion will be on karma and rebirth. First of all, let us understand the word karma. And this word karma has been used during the time of the Buddha, and perhaps during the time of the Buddha, different religious teachers. I think I mentioned this before, right? Sometime? Yes. Different religious teachers have used this word, but they have different interpretations for this same word, karma. It comes from the root word. The Sanskrit root is kr, K-R with a dot underneath, kr. Kr means what? To do, to make. So that is how the general meaning of karma is action. General meaning is action. So, but the Buddhist interpretation of karma, it does not mean just any kind of action. It means action that has been performed with intention, with volition, will. Purposely, you perform an action purposefully, intentionally. That becomes an intentional action. That is how the Buddha defined karma. Cetana hang kammang vadami. Cetana. The Buddha used the word kamma as cetana. Now, there are two spellings for karma. One is the Sanskrit spelling, karma, and that spelling is, it is more often used in this way. But the Pali spelling is K-A-M-M-A. It's another word, Pali word, K-A-M-A, K long A, M-A. What is that? Kama. That is sensuality. Senses, based, pertaining to the senses, kama. But this is kamma, or karma. All right. So you know the meaning from the Buddhist teachings. Karma refers to intentional action, action performed by the mind, by intention. Then, normally when we use this word karma, when we introduce this, the teachings of karma, as the law of karma, or the law of cause and effect. Karma is the action. That action gives rise to conditions and reaction. So, karma itself is not cause and effect. Don't mistake. Karma is only the action. The effect is what? What do you call the effect? Vipaka. Cause and effect. Now the law of cause and effect can be explained. There are two aspects of the law of cause and effect. There are two aspects. The first aspect is the cosmic law of the cause and effect. Here the cosmic law includes all the physical laws in the universe, universal law of cause and effect. And that if you throw a stone upwards in the sky, what happens to the stone? It falls down, right? That is also governed by cause and effect. But that cause and effect is governed by the law of gravity. The law of gravity. And in a similar manner, that's how Newton's third law of motion, those who study physics, action and reaction. Now, that is physical law, right? That's physical law. So that one is how we see the cosmic side. It is cosmic in the sense that it has a universal application of cause and effect. But the teachings of the Buddha is more concerned with the aspect which deals with moral or moral causation. So that aspect on which deals with human life and sufferings. We use that second aspect is called moral causation. Now, the simplest definition of the law of cause and effect in terms of moral causation, it can be explained in terms of what? Anybody? Good and bad. Good begets good. Evil begets evil. Is that all? Good begets good, evil begets evil. Is that all? There you are. So, the simplest definition is like this. Good begets good, evil begets evil. That's the simplest definition we can give. But in the text, in the discourse of the Buddha has classified karma into four categories, and using different colors, only two colors, black and white. Black action gives rise to black result. White action gives rise to white result. Black and white action gives rise to there you are. Expected somebody will say gray result. No. Black and white gives rise to he says white. Who says white? Black and white gives rise to what? Black. Black plus white equals black. Is that right? No. Buddha says black and white action gives rise to black and white effect. Then, what about neither black nor white? That's right. Neither black nor white action gives rise to neither black nor white effect. These are the four categories of karma. Very important. Now the first one, what do we mean by black action? Means bad action, unwholesome action, unskillful action. Those actions that give rise to suffering. So, all those actions that give rise to suffering. That when you perform an unwholesome action, you reap the unwholesome effect. When you perform a white action, a good action, it gives rise to good effect. When you perform good and bad action, what do you get? Good and bad result. Remember this. Because in the law of karma, that karma don't cancel off. They don't get mixed up and become gray. You get both good and bad result. Sometimes people do good action, but intentionally they have bad intention, or they have thoughts. The thoughts are good, actions bad. Sometimes thoughts bad, actions quite good. All these things, thought, speech and action, all comes under karma. This is how we can generate karmic energy through our thought, through our speech and through our bodily action. Now, what is the other one? Neither good nor bad action. Yes, there are certain actions which are neither good nor bad. Those who have freed their minds from all cravings, no more craving, no more desire, their actions are neither good nor bad. That is why they come under certain, in other words, they stop generating karma. For them there is no more karma. So that's why the action is neither good nor bad. And that kind of action we call kriya. Also just an action without any result. Right. Now, I mentioned that karma can be understood as a form of a force, an energy, karmic energy or karmic force. This karmic energy or force can be generated in three ways: by thought, by speech, and by bodily action. Thought means mental action. Then speech, verbal action, and bodily action. In these three ways, we can generate karma. And then there is what he mentioned, wholesome and unwholesome, good and bad karma. Now, this afternoon we have learned the three kinds of, the three evil roots and the three good roots. What are the three evil roots? Greed, hatred and delusion. Now these evil roots conditions evil or unwholesome actions. And let us see these three evil roots. These three has three evil roots. Three evil roots. The roots are greed, hatred and delusion. With these three evil roots, conditions gives rise to three main branches. And these branches are wrong thoughts, wrong speech, and wrong bodily actions. In terms of bodily actions, there are three kinds of wrong bodily action: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Then in terms of wrong speech, there are four kinds. Four kinds of wrong speech. What are they? Lying, slender, harsh speech, or harsh language, harsh speech, and frivolous talk, useless talk, playful talk, comes under that. Then, wrong thoughts. What are wrong thoughts? Thoughts of covetousness. Abhijja visama lobo. Thoughts of covetousness. Then thoughts of ill will. And wrong views. Micchaditti. Yes. Yes. And enmity is that hatred. Wrong. Ill will. Ill will or hatred. Enmity. These are the 10 unwholesome deeds or 10 unwholesome actions performed by thought, speech and bodily actions. This is how you understand the unwholesome karma. All the unwholesome karma, when we talk about bad karma, now actions you know, but wrong actions you know. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and you have gone through the classes on lessons on these, right? Then wrong speech, lying. You also know what lie is, right? Do you know how to lie? Have you lied before? And otherwise you'll be telling the biggest lie. Then slander. What is slander? What is slander? What is slander? Talk bad about others. Yes. But what is? There must be an intention. What is the intention? What is the aim of talking bad about others? To defame others for what? What's the purpose? To separate them. To separate one from the other. Slander. When you speak bad about others with the intention of separating them, and so that they don't win so many votes, no? A lot of slandering during that time, and that is slander, slanderous talk. Then, what is the opposite of slander? To speak in such a way that you can bring people together, that people can live in harmony, bring them to live together. When they are divided, then you, using right speech, wholesome speech, you unite them, bring them together. That is the opposite of slander. Then harsh speech. You know what harsh speech are? Good that we don't hear harsh speech here, isn't it? And you can go anywhere and you can hear in the, what you call, market. You need to go to the market to hear. I think outside, anywhere, you can hear in the morning, oh, very loud one day shout. Sometimes mother using very harsh words unto the children. And so, while you are driving, oh yes, people drive and they get caught in the traffic jam, angry, they use harsh words. And those who are studying in the tertiary institutes, higher university colleges, they also. That's where they learn all the harsh words, no? They learn the really harsh words. Those primary ones, they are primary harsh words. Secondary harsh words. Tertiary harsh words. Oh, very bad ones they use, no? And because they think, without that harsh word, they think that they are not rugged. They want to be rugged. Otherwise, they say, oh, he's a sissy, he talks like a sissy, and like a goody fellow. He is not rugged, he uses that. So in order to be rugged, in order to be manly, even the women also use very harsh words. And so these harsh words, it's not pleasant because it is wrong in the sense that it can give rise, it can hurt others, no? When somebody uses some harsh words to you, how do you feel? Do you feel sometimes hurt or you feel happy? Are you happy when people use harsh words to you? No. Then why do you want to use it? No? So, if you have that habit of using harsh words, try to refine those words. Try to check and refine those words. No? And because when you can only use that kind of words in a certain environment, among certain rowdies, and so-called rugged people. But the moment you come out to a more refined society, and if you are in the habit of using that, then you will not find a place in such society. So avoid that harsh speech. And because of the habits of harsh speech, certain places they have to spend a lot of money in order to have campaign for courtesy campaign, to know how to speak, to train people how to speak, say thank you, please, and thank you. And so these are pleasant words, pleasant to the ears. Then another one is frivolous talk. What is frivolous talk? Playful talk, vain talk, boastful talk, and also useless. What are these useless talk? Oh, they are classified. There are many kinds of useless talk. And they talk from the hair right up to the toes, and not pointing out the nature of them. They talk about hairstyle, different kinds of hairstyle, hairdos. Then after that, they talk about the hat. I do not know whether you use hat or not here. Certain countries they have certain hats. And then they talk about the dress, fashion, and the brands, the shirt, the pants, and then after that talk about shoes. That's how you start your conversation, isn't it? When you meet somebody, you say, oh, you have a nice shirt. Then after that, they talk about the shirt. Then after that, from the shirt, they go, why your hair like that? They start talking about the hair. Then after that, they look down, hey, your shoes are style, Now, whole night they talk about these things. After that, what have they gained? What have they gained? Have they gained any useful knowledge with regards to the understanding of nature of life, or to discipline themselves? No. The only thing they gain is this. They know where to get those things. They know how much it costs. And they know that which is the in fashion and which is the out fashion. So when they go back at night, they will be thinking, where can I get these things? How can I get them? So in other words, it only builds up more craving. That's right. Now you know. And playful talks also. That is one kind of playful talk. Another kind of playful talk that in schools, they always do this. They start teasing one another. And they call names. And then get very angry. Fight. After that, fight. Another playful talk. So, there are various kinds. In general, useless talks are those talks that does not bring any benefit. Benefit in the sense of understanding. Does not arouse mindfulness. Does not arouse awareness of the nature of ourselves, the nature of our life, as well as how to discipline, how to control our thoughts, speech and action. Those talks that are not concerned with these, they are called useless talks. So in other words, those useful talks are all those talks which directly or indirectly are connected with the Four Noble Truths. But don't go out and say everything about suffering only, no? And you can point out, you can talk about everything, and then you can point out. See how everything is subject to change, transient. Then you can convert all the useless talk to useful talk. That is what some clever people do. They can engage in all the useless talk, and then in the end they conclude, see, all these things are changing. Fashions are changing. Your hairs are also changed. Anicca. And everything that is changing is subject to dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. Why not you try? Next time when you hear all those frivolous talk, then you can cut in and then point out. Anicca, dukkha and anatta. Right. Then these are wrong speech. 4 kinds of wrong speech. Do you know that speech, through speech, you can kill people with speech? Yes. You can kill not one, you can kill many people with wrong speech. Yes, of course. Yes, not only rumor mongering, If you have wrong speech, and instead of giving the right command, you give the wrong command, and people can shoot at the innocent people, no? If you are in the army. Right. Then the other one is wrong thoughts. What are wrong thoughts? Firstly, we use this English word covetousness, but in Pali it is abhijja visama lobho. Lobho means craving. It is a dangerous, poisonous kind of craving. Now, craving for one's own needs, one's own possession, is bad enough, isn't it? But to crave for others' possession, others' belongings, that is dangerous kind of craving. In other words, covetousness here means to crave for others' possessions. Mata keranjang. You know what mata keranjang? Whatever you see, you want. You see others have new car, you want to get that new car. You see other people have got a new bride or bridegroom, you also want that. You want to possess that. That is covetousness. You see somebody having something, immediately the thought comes, what about, can I get it? Where can I get it? How can I get it? Covetousness. Thoughts. Wanting to possess others' things. So that is excessive craving. That is wrong thoughts. Now next one is ill will. Ill will, anger, hatred, ill will. And wrong views. Oh, there are different kinds of wrong views. The strongest kind of wrong views is what? Wrong views pertaining to the self. Where there is nothing permanent in this self, we say that there is something permanent. And also the view, when things are changing, some people hold the view that things are permanent. When things are subject to unsatisfactoriness, suffering, they say that is happiness. Of course. Do you know when people enjoy, when they get the thrill, and they are very happy, they laugh, that is happiness, isn't it? Right? Is that happiness? When they are happy, when they go to the, to the dinner and they say, yam sing, and all very happy, isn't it? Smiling and laughing and, are they happy? There you are. Also say happy. That is happiness, true. But that kind of happiness is not satisfactory. That kind of happiness is not satisfactory. Because it does not last very long. After that yam sing, and then after that, you see what happens. When they go back, what happens? And people take that to be happiness. But when we look at the nature, true nature of that kind of happiness, we see its fleeting nature, and we see it is fraught with suffering, unsatisfactoriness. Right, because it is subject to change. So there are other kinds of wrong views. Many kinds of wrong views. With regards to the self alone, there are, I think, a net of views, some 62 views, wrong views, with regards to the self. And also, I think maybe some other time we can talk about the different kinds of wrong views. Wrong views with regards to nati mata, nati pita, no such thing as mother, no such thing as father. Do you know that? In India there are such people at that time. Of course, now also there are people who do not care for their mother and father. They say there is no such thing as paying respect to our mother and father. Why? For what? Because we never asked them that, we never asked to be born. But, they bring us. We don't want to be born, but they brought us up. Yes, there you are. Is it true, you see? So when they think like this, so when you see how people hold this view, once they hold this kind of view, then it's a very dangerous view. Then they have no respect for their parents. Now, during the time of the Buddha, there were some philosophers who hold the view that everything is made up of matter. And you are made up of matter. Right? And there is nothing wrong in killing. What is the meaning of killing? He takes a sword and he cuts the head. What is he doing? He is only separating the atoms and the molecules in the body. Yes, that's all. There are people who hold that kind of view during the time of the Buddha. Very dangerous view. So to them, there is no such thing as killing. No bad karma, no that. Those are the people who, they are a group of people. They are called, they are Triyavadi. That means that they do not believe in the efficacy of good actions. To them, there is no such thing as good actions. It's only action, only. No? So you imagine killing a person, it's just to separate the blood from the flesh. See how they explain these things. And take the local kind of wrong views that people hold. People who believe that when they die, they need money for the next life. And they need you to burn some money, to send them some money. You know the paper money? So there are people who hold this view. So if people don't burn, if their children or relatives don't burn that money, and when they suffer, then they come back. They come back in the dreams and they disturb their children. They say, you did not give me money, that's why I have no money. Now I am very poor now. I am suffering. Cannot buy food also. And no motor car. You did not burn any motor car? So, they have. And sometimes when the children get this kind of dream, so they think that, we must send all these things. This is real, no? It is real insofar as those departed relatives have got wrong views in their mind. They are suffering because of their bad karma, because of the bad actions that they have performed. But they attribute that suffering because they do not understand it. They say that their relatives have not given them, have not burned these cars and burned money, burned houses, so they have no house to stay. Then you must tell them, in your dream, you must tell them, here, look here, if you say this is true, what about, can you tell me all those Europeans in America and in England, their children never burn paper money, no paper house, are they all suffering? See, so there is no truth in this. So don't ask for paper money and paper houses. And that was actually a way of expressing transference of merits. You see? A way to express, to give happiness to others, to the departed ones. The real way is by radiating your good thoughts to them. Sending good thoughts, metta towards them. No? And, okay, so there are these kind of wrong views. Many other kinds of wrong views. And these are the 10 unwholesome actions. Akusala, they are called akusala karma. Akusala karma, unwholesome karma. The opposite of which are the wholesome actions. You can't, you know all the opposites, right? Opposite of greed, generosity. Opposite of hatred, Loving kindness. Opposite of delusion, ignorance, wisdom. Opposite of killing, saving lives. Actually, the opposite of killing is, when you abstain from killing, one should practice metta, loving kindness. Why? Because a person kills out of hatred, out of anger. No? That is the kind of chetana, the kind of mental factor that conditions, conditions killing. So in order to avoid killing, one should free the mind from hatred, from anger. So practice metta. Then stealing. What is the opposite of stealing? Giving. Or why do people steal? Because they do not respect the rights of ownership. So really the opposite is to respect the rights of ownership. To respect the rights of ownership. To give is already another step, advance. But first of all, to respect the rights of ownership. When you borrow some people's things, you have to look after those things. In fact, look after them more than you would look after your own things. See? In other words, you respect that these things belong to others. You see? So that is how you practice that precept. You avoid and you practice the positive aspect. Then, sexual misconduct. Avoiding sexual misconduct, you practice sense restraint, restraining your senses. Similarly, with regards to wrong speech, the right speech is free from lying, but truthful speech. Then, free from slander, but speech which brings about harmonious speech. Speech free from harsh talk. Then, the opposite of wrong thoughts, right thoughts. What are those right thoughts? Opposite of covetousness. Opposite of wanting others' possession. What is that opposite? You give up. You always think of giving up. Thoughts of renunciation. Yes, right speech, right thought. Thoughts of renunciation. So at any time when you have the thoughts of renunciation, don't be afraid. They are right thoughts. Cherish those thoughts. Then thoughts of opposite of ill will. Goodwill, that's right. Goodwill. Metta, goodwill. Opposite of wrong views. Right views. So, very simple. But to practice all of these, so how many times a day do you have you generated this wrong karma, bad karma? And how many good karma and how many bad karma have you generated? Record down and see. And then you do you know that there is this practice in Sri Lanka? The kings in the ancient times, they have a book, big book, very big book, and they record all the good actions that they have done. When they perform some good actions, they give some donation or they give some grant, then they record, the king will record that. You know why? You know why? The bad ones they don't record. The number of people that they have killed and persecuted, that they don't record. They record only the good ones. Why? Because there is a practice that before the king died, in his dying moments, he will get somebody to read all the good things he has done. Yes. And then he will be very happy. Then he dies peacefully. So you can do that also. Right. So these are with regards to understanding of wholesome and unwholesome action, good and bad karma. Now, come back to these simple definitions of good begets good and evil begets evil. What do you think about it? According to your observations, does good action always give rise to good results? There you are. Anybody says, who says yes? Always. Good action always gives rise to good result. Yes or no? You try, very easy. If you bang your head on the wall, you will get the result immediately. You don't have to know whether you get a result in the future or not. Immediately you get the result. And if you put your hands in the fire, right, that's the action, the result is immediately you get it. Yes. Oh yes. If you scold somebody for nothing, you just try and scold somebody, those people who come to temple, you wait at the gate, right? You stand at the gate and just you shout at that person and see what you get. You will get immediate result. You will see the cause and the effect of it. No? Or if not, you just go there and you just punch and see. Don't do it. Don't try to do it. Because you see that it gives rise to action. But wait. We have to, there is a lot more things, we have to explain about the degree and the time when it will ripen. Wait 1 minute. First, let us talk about this idea of, because still there are many people who have doubts about karma. Because when you perform good action, do you see good results always? There you are. So in other words, you perform good, you can get bad results, right? Just now I ask you, when you perform good, do you see always good results? Yes or no? Sometimes only. There you are. You see. Now this is where many people, when they do good action, after having performed those good actions, then when they go back, then they get some kind of, some misfortune happens, no? And they fall down. And they break their hand. Then, when they go back, then they get some kind of, some misfortune happens, no? And they fall down. And they break their hand. And then they think, the children come and say, oh mother, you went just now to give dana to all those monks, those novices, and upasaka, upasikas. All those meritorious actions that you have done, and see, you come back, you fall down and break your hand. All the good actions you have done today, and see the effect. Then the mother thinks, yeah. He says, what kind of, And so mother says, tomorrow I don't go. And then, yes, some people have seen how their children, leading, they are very kind and honest. And then they suffer from some incurable disease. Suddenly they find out that they suffer from some incurable disease. And then they meet with untimely death. Then the parents also think, how can like this? Not fair. He does so much good. And see what happens to him. What do you say? See, now you have some understanding about you should not only judge the result on the basis of the actions that is performed in this lifetime. In the Dhammapada, very clearly mentioned, verse 120, says, an evildoer, even an evildoer, sees good as long as evil ripens not. But when the evil ripens, he sees evil. Now what is the meaning here? That means a person who has done some bad action in this lifetime, he can still enjoy as long as that evil actions, the bad actions which he has done, has not ripened. Because some actions do not ripen immediately, right? Some actions take time to ripen. Some actions ripen immediately. So how is it that this cruel, cunning and wicked person enjoys this life? How does he enjoy this life? Why does he enjoy this life? He enjoys this lifetime because of the good action that he has performed in the past. If not within this past life, it is in the past lifetime. Not the immediate past, it's the remote past. That means in his past life, he might have done some good actions. And those good actions ripen. So you see, he gets good results. Right? He enjoys that. But when the bad actions which he has performed in this lifetime begins to ripen, he sees the bad results. Understand? So this is where the understanding of the law of karma is directly related with the understanding of rebirth. In order to understand the law of karma, we also have to understand the nature of our life, rebirth, our past actions. So similarly, a good doer, those who are does good actions, they suffer in this lifetime. They are kind and honest, but they are poor. They are sickly. Why? Also because of their past. As long as the good karma has not ripened, they don't see the good effect. They can still experience the bad effect from the past. So be careful about the actions. And now you perform. If you use some harsh speech now to another novice, because he is observing his precept, he restrains, observes sila, right speech. So he restrains. But we do not know. The action the wrong speech that you have performed, the result may not come within this week. But after the novitiate program, you might see the result. We cannot guarantee that one. Huh? So, do you know certain actions which elderly people have done on some young little children? The actions which you have performed, parents have performed towards their children when they were young. And then parents have totally forgotten about that action, how they had treated a young one. Totally forgotten about it. But that young one, when he grows up, those actions, strong actions, are strongly impressed in their minds. They don't forget. So they take revenge on their parents. And they don't. That is why the Buddha has advised all his followers, whether monks, upasaka, upasikas, or novices, to contemplate frequently on what? On the nature, the real nature of our life. That this life of ours is nothing but a cycle of cause and effect. And karma is our inheritance. If there is anything that we can call our own, our inheritance, it is our actions, good and bad actions. We have come to this world with what? What did you bring along when you were born? Golden, silver spoon in your mouth? No. What else did you bring with you? Did you bring anything? Antiques? Did you carry antiques when you were born? No. You come to this world with two things. What are these two things? Oh, death certificate and birth certificate. You don't get your birth certificate immediately. Your birth certificate only apply after. You have to apply within 1 week, is that right? Your parents have to apply within 1 week. But not at the time of birth. So, you come to this world with two things. Good and bad actions. Good and bad karma. Because of the good karma that you have done in the past, you have reduced your anger, and then you begin to smile. Always smile. So you come back, you are born, oh, very charming. Only you cry a little while only, and then after that you start smiling. And very lovable because you give metta to others. Because you give metta, everybody like you. They may want to steal you also. Take you away. Everybody see you, want to take away. So, but if you have taken other people's children, then people might take you also. So, this is how. If you have discipline yourself well in the past, now you begin to discipline yourself with mindfulness and awareness. Then, next life, from the time you are born, can be very mindful. No? That is why some little one, nobody has taught them how to sit down. Do you know that some small one, immediately after a few days, in fact, when they are born, they cross the legs. Maybe not full lotus, but they cross the legs. And then afterwards, when they grow up, naturally they get into the lotus posture. Naturally they become contemplative. And some of them, naturally, they have their certain likes and dislikes for food. Some babies even, the moment they are conceived, their mother had to give up. Whatever she used to eat, she cannot eat. She eats that food, she vomits out. Because this child has a very strong influence. This child likes certain kind of food. Huh? Yes. Huh? There are many instances like this. So, this karma is our inheritance. Whatever good and bad that we have done, they are our inheritance. So every day you have been observing precepts, meditating. Those of you who are meditating properly, not those bluffing and lying, that one bad karma. Those who have been arousing, putting in effort, mindfulness, you accumulate. You are generating wholesome karma, good thoughts, giving metta to others. All these are good thoughts. And disciplining yourself. Respecting elders. All these are good actions. They will give rise to good results. Don't worry. For the time being, there may be some obstacles. Some pain here, pain there, and some disturbance in the body, in the mind. These are due to certain obstacles. Certain unwholesome karma ripening can affect. Sometimes due to the present conditions, sometimes due to heat. And then when you become tired, then can also get sick. There are a number of things that can condition you. So, overcome these obstacles with calmness, with wisdom. Try to overcome all these obstacles with calmness and wisdom. Then you can generate more wholesome karma. Then from here onwards, the seeds that are sown in your mind will begin to ripen. And from now onwards, even though you live and you can maintain certain discipline, you can maintain certain good habits, like those who have been smoking, gave up smoking, right? Those who have been getting up very late, see how they get up very early. All these are good habits. Those who have never swept at home in the house come here and sweep very clean, whole compound clean. See? Those who have never, clean one table or chair, come here and clean table and chair. All these are good actions. So, that is where you have a lot of merits. You can transfer merits to others. You see? Now, so now we have understood how good actions give rise to good results, and sometimes these good actions may not ripen immediately, because there is another classification of karma with regards to time factor. With regards to time, certain karmas, certain actions ripen within this lifetime. You can see the effect within this lifetime. Certain actions ripen not within this lifetime, but next lifetime. Some actions will ripen not only successive lifetimes, can condition a few births, a few lifetimes. So there are different kinds according to the time, when it ripens. Then, with regards to the, you see, you can understand this, you can compare this with a seed you grow. Some seeds, if you plant the jagung, maize, if you plant it, how long does it take to grow? About 5 days, is it? 5 to 7 days, you will see the plant. But if you take a durian seed and you plant, how long does it take? Oh, very long time for the seed to grow. When I was young, I remember planting mango seed, because since I like to eat mango very much last time, so I planted a mango seed. Every day I will get up in the morning and look at the seed. And this has been going on, for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I pour water, Then I was thinking, what happened? Then I dig up the seed. Dig up the seed and wash and see. Hey, no roots, nothing. Then I gave up. Gave up watching it. 1 month passed. Then 1.5 months passed. The next time I came up, I saw shoot up with how many leaves already? That is the nature of mango seed. Because it has got a lot of energy stored up, food stored up. Once it grows, it takes time to grow. Whereas that seed of that maize, jagung, little food, and grow very quickly. But when not favorable, when the conditions are not favorable, if there is no water, if you don't water it every day, what happens? What happens to the jagung seed? The maize seed will dry and shrivel away. No more plant. But that mango seed, even though you don't water it 1-2 weeks, next day rain comes, it can still grow because of the strong energy. So our karma also like that. Sometimes appear, you can see the results immediately. Sometimes takes time. Sometimes due to our action, because of the strong actions which we have done, even the conditions are not so favorable, that karma can still ripen. But certain actions which we have performed, which we have generated, but very weak, that action is very weak. We have not thought very much, but we have performed that action. It is a bad action or good action. So, if the conditions are not favorable, it does not ripen. It becomes ahosi. No? So, how certain, according to the degree, according to the seriousness of that action, that is what he mentioned just now. There are 5 kinds of very serious kinds of action. Garuka karma, very strong karma. Those who have tried to kill Buddhas in the past, like Devadatta, definitely that reaction will come. Those who have killed, harmed Arahantas, also very strong action, they will have to reap the results. Those who have killed mothers and fathers, those who have committed patricide and matricide, the reaction will definitely come. Cannot run away. And another kind of action, those who have committed schism, who have that only, you also cannot perform that action. Those monks can perform. Those who schism, divided the Sangha, reactions definitely come. So, there are these kinds of very strong, serious actions which definitely give rise to results. But there are certain kinds of actions which are performed, you do not think very much about it. Immediately on the spur of the moment you perform that action. You have generated karma, but not so strong. But do you know there are certain actions which you perform after you have thought about it for a long time, for a long period, you keep on thinking again and again. When you want to give, when you want to offer a dana, you harbor it in your mind. Oh, I'm going to give to all the monks this. And again, every day you think, and then you build up the good thoughts. Now that kind of action, when you perform that action has got very strong karma. Or when you when you meditate, and your mind becomes very calm and concentrated, and then the thought that arises, the good thought that arises in your mind, and you cherish that good thought in your mind, that thought which has arisen from strong, concentrated state of mind, that thought is very strong. It will ripen. You see? The results will come. So, if you want certain thoughts, that is how. This is the result of prayers also, praying. When you pray, first you calm your minds down, and then you make this wish. Then that becomes, that wish, that is a karma. That is a karma. You direct your wish towards certain problems that you are confronted with. Then if you have a storehouse of wholesome karma, it will help to ripen in that direction. That's how you make prayer, wish, aspiration, adhisthana. You see? So, then there are also certain kinds of karma that we only talk about karma now. No rebirth. No time for rebirth. Anyway, this evening, so far what we have talked about are these things. With regards to karma, how we define karma. How did we define karma? As cetana, as volition, volitional action or mental action, right? Things that you have done without intention, they do not generate karmic action, karmic energies. Then we also talk about the different classification of karma with regards to wholesome and unwholesome karma, and the 10 kinds of unwholesome karma. Remember these 10 kinds of unwholesome karma so that you don't make them. You don't commit. You do not perform these bad actions. You can avoid these bad actions. Then we also talk about karma in terms of time. How time factor. Some ripen in this life, some next life, some successive births, lifetime. We talk about the intensity, the degree of karma. Strong karma definitely gives rise. Not strong karma. Then there is another kind of classification with regards to the function. Certain karma performs certain function. Now, in terms of function, we have what we call janaka karma. Janaka karmas are those karma which produces birth, rebirth, which directs where your next birth. They are called reproductive karma, or they are called the linking karma from one birth to the other birth. Then, now this karma, what is it? The last thought moment is very important for the next birth. Then the next one is upattambaka karma, supportive karma. There are certain karma that can support, that performs the function of supporting. Supporting in what sense? Now, you are born because of certain wholesome karma. You are born in a fairly good family. You have all the material things that you require. And due to the good things that you have done, that karma can support your good life. So you continue to live a good life for some time. Right? According to whatever good that you have done, there are certain supportive karma. But there are also certain karmas that perform the function of counteractive karma. They counteract. For how many years of your lifetime you spend very happily. Then, certain karma that you have performed in the past, if it is an unwholesome karma, it has a counteractive effect. It can counter the happiness that you experience and give rise to certain period, bad period. You have to suffer. You meet with certain misfortunes due to certain counteractive karma. There are also certain kind of destructive karma that can destroy the effect of good karma. It can also destroy. If it is an unwholesome past karma, it can destroy the effect of some good karma. Or it can destroy the effect of some past unwholesome karma, if it is a good action. In other words, when you are enjoying this lifetime, because of some bad karma in the past, this good life that you experience, you can suddenly change and suffer. It can stop, that happiness stops because of certain destructive karma. So karma, different karma perform different function. That is what the other day I mentioned. Those people who have performed certain karma by feeding others, by giving food, saving the lives of others, avoiding killing, their lifespans are long. And those people who like to make others happy, always when some people are sad, some people are suffering, they go and console and cheer them up. Then they have that kind of karma will be the supportive karma for happiness. So that person will be cheerful long time. Sometimes throughout the life, cheerful. That kind of karma. Those people who like to make others sad and always make others frightened, sad, then they are going to have what? When they are born, and if they have some, what you call, misfortune, then their supportive karma will be to keep them in that unfortunate state for a long time. Because the supportive karma is of an unwholesome nature. See? So, that is how we can understand a little bit of the function of the karma. And the next time we will learn about how karma can condition, how karma condition our next birth. In order to understand rebirth, there are three things that we have to understand first. First, we have to understand what is birth, what is born. And then we have to understand what is it that is living. In other words, we have to understand life, our life. And then we have to understand what death is, and how we die. And then we can understand how we will be reborn. So we have to live that rebirth some other time. There are people who say that what Chief Reverend brought up is some little children, right? They do not know that killing is bad. And so they continue to kill, right? So what will be the effect? What do you think? Because they do not know. But they have performed that action with intention. Because they know that the animal is living, but they have killed it. But they do not know that killing is bad. So what will be their reaction? Have they got to? Will the karma give rise to? Will ripen? But he does not know. That's right. That's right. You see? Now you're clever. See how wise you have become? Within a short time. And ignorance of the law is no excuse. Otherwise, now, you may not know that you may not know certain, what you call road, certain rules, regulations on the road. But if you violate it, and one-way traffic, you do not know that it is one-way traffic. You go in straight, right? And then you see the cars coming. Say, why will they come this way? They block me. The police come after you. You cannot say, police, I do not know. They will ask for your license. And they give you points, is it? Or they ask you something. Right. And whatever it is, you have to lose something. No excuse. Now, similarly like this. If you perform an action with ignorance, you see what happens is, he performs this action with ignorance. So it is that ignorance is going to prolong that unwholesome action. No? It's going to prolong that unwholesome action. Now in your case, you have come to learn about the precepts. Formerly you did not know. So you have been killing ants and all sorts of things. You have seen, a chicha, and so you take elastic and kill them and voila, everything. Now you know these things. So when you go back or when you see a little bit, ants or cockroach die, and then you feel a bit upset. You get a bit upset, right? then you begin to think, last time I don't get so upset. You should have not known all these things. Right or wrong? Because you know, now you are aware. You have this awareness that this is unwholesome. This gives rise to bad results. So when you perform that action, immediately you begin to see, you are aware that this is a wrong action, then remorse arises. In other words, you get what you call conscience. You feel the guilty conscience. Then that conscience, that kind of awareness will prevent you from doing more bad action. Right? So, is it good or bad? Good. Good. But do not, when you feel, when you get upset, don't cling to it and don't say, I have feel this thing, do not know what will happen to me. Not like that. Then that is a wrong way of repenting. No? Not to cry over spilled milk. Whatever wrong things that have been done in the past, when you come to realize that these are bad, these are your duties, you have not performed this, don't. Remorse may arise in your mind, but you must know how to overcome this remorse. How to overcome this remorse? See your mistake, but make a firm determination that you will not do it again. Now, if you still feel that kind of very remorseful, then you can go to somebody who is a good friend of yours, whom you can trust, and you can let that person know that you have done this bad thing. So that it's like a confession, understand? You admit your mistake to another. And then, but don't expect that, somebody may say, oh, now, since you're admitted, now I forgive you, and then you think, oh, no more karma. No. The purpose of confessing is this. The purpose of admitting your fault is to release your burden. The burden which you keep in your mind, you release it. You tell somebody. And then, you make a firm determination that you will not do it again. But be careful whom you tell. Because if you tell to a friend, a so-called friend, and you tell all the bad things that you have done, later on, if that friend turns to be a bad friend, then he can go and tell another person. So, you have to know who the good friend is. Now, if you have done something bad, if you have done something wrong towards one another, if you keep these things in your mind, if you do not apologize, if you don't admit your mistake, when you go up to sleep, what happens in your mind? Remorse arises in your mind. I should not have spoken like that. I should not have done that. Right? Cannot sleep properly in the mind. So what you do is, you pluck up your courage, and then you confess. You admit your mistakes, your shortcomings. And then the person, the fault that you have made, he says, right? First you see your faults. Having seen your fault, don't do that again. Then you aspire, I will not do that again. You free your mind. Then you can sleep. That is the practice in Buddhist families. Now that is, in the morning you do that. You pay your respects, and then you say those words. Okasa dwaratayena katang sabbang aparadang kamatame bante. Okasa kamami bante. A very good practice. When you go back, you should do it to your parents also. No? When you get up in the morning, then in the evening, tell them like this. And wish them long and happy life. And wish them that, if I have done anything wrong today, please forgive me. Oh, you will see tears falling down from their eyes.